I want to thank Autumn Puckett. I'm going to let you kind of introduce yourself, but she is an attorney with Birch and Bowes, formerly Carol Birch and Associates, now Birch and Bowes. Fantastic speaker, and she's going to talk to us about legal issues and Medicaid answers, and these are folks with the answers. So go for it, Autumn.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hey, thank y'all. Well, good morning. I hope y'all are having a great day so far, and you visited all of our fantastic vendors and resource tables. But today we're going to talk about how to pay for long-term care when that time does arise, and the legal documents that can really be helpful to your family and to you to facilitate that. So just as an overview of elder law, because some people maybe haven't heard of elder law yet, we focus on the needs of families with seniors or persons with disabilities, and just any general needs that family may have. So we do offer services to any age, but our joy and our heart is with our seniors. It's a relatively new type of law, so a lot of baby boomers and a growing elder population is now coming to the point where they need specialized care. So that's where we can help out. Areas of focus, sort of broad. We do estate planning, so wills, trusts, if you need a revocable living trust, powers of attorney, super important. Everyone can benefit from powers of attorney or any of these estate planning documents. You don't have to have a high net worth to benefit from estate planning. You can have the simplest of estate and structure your estate to where you can avoid probate. So it can save your family money later on. So what is probate? Probate is the legal process of transferring ownership of your property, making sure that the people that you want to receive your gifts, your estate, making sure that happens. So we can help with that process. Special needs planning, if you have maybe a child or a grandchild who is disabled and receiving public benefits, a special needs trust can benefit them. So we can step in and help there as well. And finally, the reason I'm here today is long-term care planning and Medicaid eligibility. So we all make it to the point where we do need long-term care and maybe we don't have that preparation in place to pay for it, and Medicaid can help out there. A little known fact about our firm, we do house calls. So if there's a mobility problem or maybe the person just prefers that we come to where they're comfortable, we can come visit you in the home. All right, so why is long-term care Medicaid needed? So nursing home costs are typically between $5,000 and $10,000 per month in San Antonio. That is an unreasonable amount of money for most people to afford. So you get to the point where you need long-term care and you have to make that decision of, how am I going to pay for this? Do I sell property? Can I preserve property? What do I do next? Medicare and supplemental insurance plans do not pay for long-term care. They do have some rehab coverage for up to 100 days, depending on your need and the approval for that rehab, but it doesn't cover any long-term care in a nursing home. So people are required to either private pay and start exhausting all of their hard-earned money that they've collected over their lives. They can try to seek out long-term care insurance, but at that point, often it's too late. Maybe they've lost capacity, or maybe their health is just not what it should be to qualify, or the premiums are too high. So at that point, what do? You can seek help from Medicaid. So just to give you an overview of the different types. So Medicare, it's a health insurance for adults over the age of 65. So when you turn 65, you don't have to be any sort of financial status, you just qualify. Regular Medicaid is for those with limited means that need health insurance. There are income and resource requirements, just like there are with what the type of Medicaid we're going to talk about today. That is the Medicaid for the elderly and persons with disability. We call it MEPD for short, but it's essentially nursing home Medicaid. So if you hear me talk about nursing home Medicaid, this is what I'm referring to. And it does have income and resource requirements. So the first requirement is nationality and residence. The next is income, because you have to have a threshold under a certain income level. Resource limits apply as well. And medical necessity. You must have a need for the nursing home. Another little known fact is you would have to reside in that nursing home in a Medicaid certified nursing home in a Medicaid bed reserved for that person for at least 30 consecutive days before you can apply. That seems a little counterintuitive because you would think you would have to apply for Medicaid and then go into the nursing home, but they do it a little bit different. you do need to be a U.S. citizen, lawfully admitted for permanent residence, and otherwise permanently living in the U.S. legally. So pretty basic. Residency, you do need to be a resident of Texas with the intent to remain in Texas. And surprisingly, no length of residency is required. You can have your mom move from another state and you can apply. You don't have to be here for 6 months or a certain time limit. So that's very helpful to families that need immediate care. So medical necessity, what does that mean? So if you need custodial care, it's still in a 24-hour institutional setting, maybe assisted living. That's not a medical need for Medicaid purposes. They say that the person does need to have need for a licensed nurse, skilled nursing care. Oftentimes the diagnosis of dementia is enough. So if you have a dementia diagnosis, even if it's mild and it's sort of, you still have capacity enough to make decisions, the fact that you might need medication management is often enough for Medicaid for that check mark of eligibility. Oh, I think it froze up on me. Hold on one moment, technical difficulties. Oh, there we go. Thank you so much. Okay, so income. So what is the income cap for a person who's trying to apply for this type of Medicaid? The maximum allowed is $2,901. So most of us think, well, oh no, I'm not eligible because I have Social Security, I have, other retirement pension plans, I have distributions from my IRA, I'm over that cap. Well, that's okay. We can do something called a qualified income trust, also known as a Miller Trust. And this trust allows you to qualify despite the fact that you maybe have too much income per month. So very helpful. So overall, ma'am? Yes, ma'am. So the slang term is a Miller Trust, but it's actually a qualified income trust. So it's a trust only for your income. It's not a trust for any assets or any of your resources. So typically speaking, when you get this type of Medicaid, the majority of your income is going to go to the nursing home to pay for care. You're able to keep a $75 personal needs allowance. I know that's so much money, you don't spend it all in one place, but surprisingly, just recently, it was upgraded to $75 from $60. So, whoopee! Okay, so I always want to stress, your income level is never an obstacle for nursing home Medicaid. We can help. All right, resources. So this is, yes, sir.
I have a question about that.
Please.
I care for my mother. She lives with me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to find that when they're asking about income, they want income from everybody in the household, even though.
So for nursing home Medicaid, only the income of the applicant matters. So I'm going to talk about spouses here shortly, but spouses can have an income of any level. So it all depends. Oh, go ahead.
They keep here online, so if you read.
Oh, I'm sorry. So the gentleman asked if anyone in the household, if their income also was contributed to the Medicaid applicant, and that's not the case for nursing home Medicaid. They're only going to consider the applicant's income. So that's what they're focusing on. So, you know what I might do? I might wait. I'm going to walk around at the end and answer questions.
But can I add just
Yes, please. Go ahead.
If you're using the term nursing home,
Yes, ma'am.
it's applying to assisted living. Because assisted living is a much bigger term and a need for many of us.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. So that's a great question. So she's asking about assisted living care, and does Medicaid cover that? Technically, yes. There's something called the Star Plus Waiver Program, which I'm going to get into later today, actually. So that's a great lead into that later. But yes, ma'am. But Star Plus Waiver does pay for care in a nursing or an assisted living community. I will say, though, that there are limited assisted living communities that do accept this program. So you would need to make sure that they would accept it. Yes, ma'am. Okay, so resources. Just think of assets. When I say resources, it's just your estate, your assets, what you have. For Medicaid purposes, you can't have more than $2,000 in countable assets. That is just astronomically low for most people. But the key word is countable. What is countable? So Medicaid considers bank accounts, checking, savings, CDs, money market accounts, if you have investment accounts, of course your retirement accounts, with a caveat. I'll get into that in a little bit. Let's say you have a second home or a piece of property in another state, that would be countable. Mineral rights, regardless of whether you're receiving money from those, but that can have value. And a little known resource resource is the life insurance policy that you have. It might have cash value to that. So maybe you have a whole life policy and you've been paying for a long time, building up cash value. Medicaid considers that as part of your resources. So we've had some clients who were applying through the nursing home, the business office did their application, and they kept getting denied and didn't know why. Well, we looked at it and realized, oh no, they have $3,000 in cash value. That's the reason why they can't qualify. We need to sell that policy or get it reassigned, and then they're good to go. So essentially, Medicaid considers everything that's not specifically exempt as a countable resource. Now, if you're married, what Medicaid does is they consider the assets of both spouses to be countable. Doesn't matter if it's separate property, just in one person's name or not, everything is considered as a whole. But there are special rules designed to protect your spouse at home. They don't want that person at home to become destitute trying to pay for their loved one's care. All right, so exempt resources. These are very important. So your homestead for a single person, up to $730,000 in equity. That is a lot of equity. That's way more than my house is worth. So you can have a beautiful home and still be exempt. And it's unlimited equity for a married couple. You could have a ranch worth $1 million, and that's okay. All contiguous land. That just means the land that's surrounding your own property. So maybe you have land that's touching, or maybe it's separated by a road. As long as there's no other owners in between that land, that's considered contiguous. And that also is covered as an exempt resource for Medicaid. Prepaid funeral plans are also covered. Some people have already pre-done this in the past. That's okay, as long as it's prepaid and it's irrevocable. There's no way to pull money out of that plan. Little tip for you, if you want to talk about discounted funerals and cremation services, come see me at the table after this. I can talk to y'all about Funeral Consumers Alliance. It's a great resource. Okay, so traditional IRAs and payout status. This is not an official Medicaid rule, but they've been doing this for a very long time, where they say if you have a traditional IRA and you're already receiving your required minimum distributions, your monthly income from that IRA, your entire IRA is exempt. You could have a $300,000 IRA that's paying out, and Medicaid considers that off the table for eligibility purposes. So that is a huge savings for families. Prevention of spousal impoverishment. So Medicaid, again, they understand the spouse at home, they still need to take care of themselves. They can't have all of the money of the person going into care be going to the nursing home, and there's nothing left for the spouse at home. So what they want to do is they want to look at the entire resources of the couple. They essentially put it all into a pot and they split it down the middle. And they say that the spouse at home can keep up to $157,920 of countable resources. Everything above that, everything outside of that, is going to be spent down to $2,000, because remember, the spouse that's going into the nursing home, they can have resources up to $2,000. So we count that in there. We call this spousal protected resource amount, so SPRA for short, because that's a mouthful. If you have less than $31,584 countable resources, you don't have to spend out anything. You're good to go. You apply, you're ready. Let's give you some examples to put this into practice. So we have a couple, they have countable resources of $300,000. So you take that pot, put all your stuff in there, split it down the middle. The spouse at home gets to keep up to $150,000, because remember, the maximum they can keep is $157,000. And then the other $150,000 of that $300,000 must be spent down to $200,000 for the institutionalized spouse to qualify. Now there's some strategic ways we can spend down that we'll talk about here in a minute. What if the couple has combined countable resources of $30,000? Well, you get to keep everything because it's below that $31,000 minimum SPRA. So nothing has to be spent down, ready to go. But what if the couple has countable resources of $500,000? Well, you think, oh, well, I can't qualify for Medicaid with $500,000. Well, you can. We can get strategic in how we do that. So the spouse at home still gets to keep $157,000 because that's the max. And then we have to spend down the rest in a strategic way. Okay. So income diversion. So I love income diversion, specifically because If you have one spouse who is the breadwinner of the family, maybe they have more pension coming in, they have the IRA distributions, and you're concerned because, oh no, that person's income is going to go to pay the nursing home. What do I do if I'm the spouse at home and I'm only making $1,000 a month with Social Security? How do I survive? Well, Medicaid understands this. So they allow the spouse at home to keep all of their income, so whatever they were already making, they keep it. If the community spouse at home's income is less than $3,900.48 in 2025, these amounts change every year, then the income of the spouse going into Medicaid, it diverts to the person at home. So it allows them to bring up their income to that $3,948 so that they can sustain themselves while their loved one is receiving care. So it's extremely helpful to families who still need to pay bills and keep it going with life while your person's receiving the care they need. So here's an example for you. So an institutionalized spouse, their gross income is $2,000. The community spouse, the person that's at home, their income's also $2,000. Well, if that $2,000 for the person going into nursing home care is all going to the nursing home, obviously the spouse at home can't pay bills with the $2,000. So Medicaid allows that $1,948 to be diverted to the spouse at home, brings up their income to that $3,948, and then the copay to the nursing home is only $52. Medicaid pays everything else. And also remember, $75 you get to keep. Now your copay is $0. They pay everything. So you get Medicaid coverage with medications, doctors, I mean everything is taken care of at that point. So it's a major benefit. So this is what, it's very rare that this can happen. If you have a couple that both of their income is less than $3,948, there is a special opportunity to expand how much you can keep and not spend down. So Medicaid uses a very complicated formula to based on the interest of a one-year CD. Y'all would go to sleep if I tried to explain it. But basically what they do is they try to imagine how much it would cost to purchase a CD, and the interest produced from that CD will be able to bring their income up to that amount. If you can purchase a large enough CD, imagine preserving another $300,000 of your accountable resources by this process. Very confusing. If you want to come in and talk to me about it, I can draw you a graph, but I think you've had enough of graphs today. Okay. Spend down strategy. This is where we get creative. So you're going to want to spend down on your exempt resources. So do you need a new roof? Do you need a new air conditioning unit? What about expanding doorways for people that have wheelchairs? Or upgrading your bathroom so you can step in instead of having a tub. So many things you can do to upgrade your home. You have to spend down anyway, and you're improving your home and providing some more equity. You can have a new vehicle. So Medicaid considers one vehicle exempt of any value. Let's say you have an old car and it's starting to have a lot of problems. Get a new one. Get a fresh one. Don't get a Bentley or Mercedes or something. That's not a responsible way to spend down. But, upgrade your vehicle so the person at home still has reliable transportation. You can prepay your funeral plan, as we talked about earlier. What about dental work? What if there's something that your insurance does not cover and you maybe need to get something done with your dental work? That's a great way to spend down. So, but be very careful of gifting. That is where things go very wrong. So, transfer rules for Medicaid. So, a person is ineligible for Medicaid for one day for every $242 transferred for less than fair market value. So that's about $7,200 a month. So Medicaid's theory is, okay, well, if you have enough money to just be giving away willy-nilly, we're not going to pay for your care. And then we understand that, but there's times where you've maybe gifted in the past without realizing you've gifted, because anything over $200 is considered a gift. So if you paid someone's bills, if you gave, grandson Johnny a check for his birthday for $1,000, that's very generous, don't do that. But, that's considered a gift. So this is the dreaded 5-year look back. Everyone talks about the 5-year look back. Yes, Medicaid does look back 5 years. They look for any gifting. They're trying to make sure that that family is not trying to give all their property away, look like they're destitute, and then apply for Medicaid, because they don't want people to receive Medicaid that don't genuinely need it. And I understand that, but there's also times where maybe you made a down payment on your son's house. You were just trying to help him out because you had the extra, cash. Maybe you sold your car to your neighbor for $100 because they really needed it and you were trying to do a good deed. Maybe you had an investment property that you didn't want to deal with anymore and you deeded it to your daughter. Maybe you had an inheritance coming in and you were worried, oh, what if I need Medicaid one day? I'll just disclaim it. I'll just let it go to the next person in line so it stays in the family. Well, all of those are penalized transfers. Medicaid says, oh, you gifted that. Now we're going to essentially make you ineligible for a period of time. So to try to combat this, we can do an affidavit where we essentially explain to Medicaid, this person did not gift to qualify for Medicaid. They were giving a gift to their church every month of $400. They were blessing their grandchildren in some way. And this was done 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and Medicaid was not on the horizon at that time. So we can do these affidavits to try to explain away the transfers or the gifting, and hopefully to either mitigate or to completely eliminate that transfer penalty. There's no guarantee it will work because Medicaid, of course, reserves the right to ignore our pleas, but we can certainly do our best to help you. Okay, so here's an example. So let's say mom gives daughter $10,000. Lovely gift. You divide that $10,000 by $242.13. That results in 42 days of ineligibility. That is a lot of time where you have to private pay. Then mom gives son, let's $50,000. She is super generous to her son. Might be her favorite, don't tell the daughter. So you divide $50,000 by $242.13, and you have a whopping 207 days of ineligibility. That is astronomical for most families who can't afford long-term care. So please, 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 be careful with gifting or paying anyone's bills over $200. Transfer rules, so this is the kicker. So transfer penalty doesn't start until that person is otherwise eligible for Medicaid. So you can't just spend everything down, get to the minimum resources and income amount, and then try to apply for Medicaid. They will penalize you regardless. So it's a good idea if you think that Medicaid might be on the horizon, just start preemptively getting ready now by not spending to make sure that you don't run into this problem later. I'm looking on time. Good. Okay. So transfer strategies for a single person. So it's called a half-loaf strategy. So we're trying to preserve half of those assets. So let's say that person has, I don't know, $150,000 of countable assets, and we don't want them to have to spend all that down to nothing. Well, we can take half of that amount and we can gift it to our loved one. Purposely gifting because we're waiting for that penalty. We are expecting the penalty. And what we do is, with the other half, we purchase a Medicaid-approved immediate annuity. That turns that countable resource into a stream of income. And we use that stream of income to pay the nursing home. We have a great company that we work with that times it down to the day of when that transfer penalty will end and when Medicaid will start paying. So now you've protected half of your assets. Awesome. Pass it on to your kids, your loved ones. You're immediately eligible after that penalty period has completed. But then you spent half of your assets on a nursing home instead of maybe improving your house or spending down in another way. There's also associated costs and fees with doing these types of things, including the likelihood you're going to have to employ us to help you with the application because Medicaid doesn't understand, or the nursing homes that do these applications just for free, they don't understand how to do the application for an annuity like this. So often an attorney has to do it for you to make sure that your application can get through successfully. But again, if you want to be able to do this on behalf of another, that person needs to have a power of attorney that has unlimited gifting power. Because if they don't have that, we may be limited on how we can help. And I'm going to talk about that further in just a moment. So transfer strategies for a married couple. We can do a lot more for a married couple than we can for a single person. So there are exceptions to the gifting rules. You can gift between your spouses, that's okay. But remember, Medicaid puts all of the married couple's assets in a pot, splits it down the middle. So if they're all considered counted regardless of whose name it's in, that's not really going to help us. But we could use the excess amount above that $157,000 that I was telling y'all about earlier, and then you purchase that immediate annuity. You turn that income to, or return that resource to the spouse as an income. So now that the money that was counted against you is now going to pay the spouse every month to bring the income up for the person at home. So now you've transferred all of that money to the spouse at home. And remember, the spouse at home can have an income of any amount. She could have 10 grand coming in every month, and that's okay. So this is a helpful strategy for married couples. You've, again, preserved all your assets. Person at home can maintain that standard of living so they're not impoverished in any way. And you're immediately eligible for the spouse that needs care. But again, we have the costs and the fees associated. So it's good to sit down and determine whether or not this would be the right approach for your family. And keep in mind, again, you can only do this if your power of attorney authorizes unlimited gifting. So that's something we're going to really stress today, because you might find yourself in a pickle if you don't have that set in advance. Okay, y'all, MERP, dreaded MERP. Everyone asks, is Medicaid going to take my home? They possibly could, but I'll explain how this works. So MERP stands for Medicaid Estate Recovery Program. Medicaid keeps a running tab. They keep notes on how much they're spending on you. And then at the Medicaid recipient's death, they send a bill essentially saying, oh, we've spent this much on your loved one, we expect to be paid back. So in most cases though, the family has either spent down, or maybe a spouse has passed away, and maybe a house is all that's left. So what if your adult child is living in that house? What if your grandkids are living in that house? They may be forced to sell it to pay that debt. So there are exceptions to estate recovery. So if there is a surviving spouse, they drop the claim. If there is a surviving child under 21, a surviving child who is blind or disabled, or there's an unmarried child residing in the house at least 1 year before the Medicaid recipient's passing. Now this is important because a lot of adult children will move in with their parents to help care for them. And if they just stay in the home and they're already living there, and then their parent passes away, that home can be exempt. So that's a very helpful tool in case you don't have any other preparations in place. Other estate recovery exceptions, if that's a sibling or direct descendant, is inheriting that homestead and they have a very low income level, they say less than 300% of the federal poverty level, that's also considered exempt. And if it's just not worthwhile to Medicaid to go after your estate, if there's less than $10,000 worth of your estate, if there's less than $3,000 they're actually going to get from this process, they're just going to let it go. Or if the cost of the sale of the property is greater than the value of the property. But with how high property values are going these days, I don't see that one as viable. But there are options out there to exempt your property. Okay, y'all, listen close. Ladybird deeds, transfer on death deeds. Super awesome, okay? Regardless of whether Medicaid is on the horizon for you at all, these documents, they are transfer on death deeds, they help you avoid probate as well. So it's not just for Medicaid purposes. So MERP doesn't have a lien on your house. When you pass away, they don't send a bill and say, okay, well now we're taking a lien so you can never sell this before paying us back. They are a probate creditor. They are no different than your credit card company that's trying to get that money out of you, or the last hospital bill. They're in line just like everybody else in the probate process. So let's say you pass away and all you have is a couple bank accounts and you have beneficiaries on those. Please check that. That money goes directly to that person you've named. You have a transfer on death deed or a ladybird deed for your house. Your house goes directly to the person that you've named. You may never have to probate at all. You could have an estate that just passes directly to your loved ones, and Medicaid can't collect. So, strategies. All right, don't wait until it's too late, please, to update your financial POA. So remember that the person who's making these documents, they do need to have legal capacity to execute the documents. Just because you received a diagnosis of dementia does not mean you cannot execute your own documents. If you understand the nature and consequences of what you're signing, and we sit with you and you understand what we're saying and what we're signing as a whole, we're good. You can do a power of attorney. So please don't let a diagnosis alone stop you. The standard forms that you can find online, many people have created their powers of attorney 20 years ago, and it's just standard statute form. One of the problems with this is that there is a gifting provision on those older powers of attorney, or the standard ones, but it's limited to the federal tax exclusion amount, which this year is $19,000. If I'm trying to help you preserve your estate, I can't do very much with $19,000. So it's good to have unlimited gifting. And we actually had a client recently who did not believe she needed a power of attorney. She had her daughter joint on her bank accounts, and she's like, no, I'm good, I don't need that. I'm fine. Well, what happened was, client needed Medicaid later on. She ended up needing long-term care. And her daughter came to us to try to help her get qualified for Medicaid. Well, one of the problems was mom had a very hearty cash value in her life insurance policy. Problem is, daughter couldn't sell the life insurance policy or do anything with it because she didn't have a power of attorney. So daughter had to hire a guardianship attorney and pay a lot of money to get guardianship over mom in order to sell the life insurance policy, cash that out, spend it down, and get mom qualified. So thousands and thousands spent extra over and above. Had she just had a power of attorney, it would have been easy. So please check your powers of attorney. If you have one already, just make sure the agents are still good on there, and also check for the powers that you have. Unlimited gifting is extremely important in case you do later need long-term care. Springing versus immediate. So a springing power of attorney is a power of attorney that says, this is effective upon my disability or incapacity. Here's the problem with this. You have a catastrophic diagnosis. You have an illness. You have an injury. You're out of it. You can't speak for yourself. Well, try to find a doctor who's going to certify in writing that you're incapacitated in that moment. You may not be able to find one. I had a client last week that he has waited 9 months to see his doctor to get his wife to see for anything, even just a general diagnosis. So he wasn't able to use his own wife's power of attorney to help her because of that language. So you're going to want your power of attorney to be immediate, that it's not affected by your disability or incapacity. That's going to really help you in case you need immediate assistance later on. Trust creation powers, so that's very important. Remember that Miller Trust I told you about earlier, that we can help you if you would make too much money. Your agent can create a Miller Trust on your behalf, but having that trust creation language in there is really important. So please check for that as well. And then unlimited gifting. So we have language in our power of attorney that has unlimited gifting to, obviously the purpose is to maybe purchase an annuity, but also to create a ladybird deed. So let's say you haven't done a ladybird deed previously, you become incapacitated. This allows your agent to do it for you, to protect your house later if that does come about. So it's a handy tool to have, even if you never need it. I'd rather have it, not need it, than need it and not have it. Yes, sir. Please.
The ladybird deed, do you have to be in some form of distress to get it created? I'm sorry, very good.
Oh, anyone. I have a transfer on death deed on my house. Anyone can have this type of deed. So a ladybird deed is essentially a present transfer with a reserved life estate. So you're saying, I'm going to give this to you, but I'm reserving a life estate to do whatever I want to do with it while I'm living. I can sell it, mortgage it, I can rent it, whatever I want, and then when I pass away, my life estate goes away, and now you're the owner. So that's something to think about too for how you want your property to transfer, because the ladybird deed specifically, you can't add a contingent beneficiary. You can't say, well, if this person is not living, then I want this person to inherit my home. Ladybird deed is, I'm giving this property to this person, and that person or persons own all together. Transfer on death deed, that's the deed I did for my house. That says that when my husband and I pass away, either he gets it when I die or vice versa, and then after the both of us die, our children would receive it. So now I've avoided 2 probates. My probate, or his, well, essentially, both of ours, and then the kids can just get it directly. So if the house, my house is my biggest asset. I don't really have a lot else. So that's what I'm most concerned about. So for me, even if you never need Medicaid, it can be helpful just to avoid probate and make sure that the person you want to get your home gets it. But don't forget, if you're listing all of your kids on there, do you want your kids owning property together? That might be a little, see, I saw head shaking, I knew it. Okay. That can be very problematic because then they're all responsible for paying property taxes and the upkeep and, repairs and all these things. So, and who's going to live there? What's the agreement? This is getting real messy. So, just something to think about when you're estate planning. But like I said, estate planning can help everyone, even if you just want to talk about how to pass your house on. I mean, probate, people are afraid of probate. Y'all, probate's not hard in Texas. It is the fastest process if you have a will. It is a 5-minute hearing in our office on Zoom. One of the benefits of COVID. Now we do the hearings on Zoom. It's awesome. So having a will is extremely important anyway. Even if you don't think you're going to need it, please double check your wills and make sure you have those. And a little tip, make sure your executors are still good. Because sometimes you haven't looked at them in like 20 years. Just dust them off and take a look at them. Okay. So can you receive Medicaid long-term care outside of the nursing home? Yes, you can. So Start Plus Waiver is a program that Medicaid offers. It allows disabled adults or elderly Texans ages 65 or older who need that level of care to stay at home and have someone come in and help. It can work in adult foster care, assisted living residences, to receive that type of care in those facilities or at home. You have to be able to qualify the exact same way that you would qualify for the Medicaid I've talked about today. So $2,900 for income, the resource level of 2,000, all of that still counts. So here are some problems with it. So I will say there's been a lot of changes with Medicaid lately. It is excessively difficult to find a caregiver to come to your home that Medicaid supplies. So let's say you qualify for Start Plus Waiver, everything's great, you're approved, you're waiting for the caregiver to show up and nobody shows up. Would you like to know why? They only pay the caregivers about $11 an hour. Who's going to show up for $11 an hour? They can make 3 times that working in the private sector. They're not going to come for $11 an hour. So you may go through all of this, do the spin down, you do everything you have to do, and you can't get someone to show up. And now you're in sort of the same situation where, what do? I guess I have to do the nursing home, which is so silly. By the way, little known fact, it is now considered illegal to supplement that income. Because normally you'd say, I'll just pay them like $20 an hour. I'll just give them a little bit per hour and I can get a better quality person to come in and actually show up. You can't do that. Medicaid literally says it's illegal to supplement that income. And I guess the reason why is they're trying to discourage, under the table type things, I understand, but I would think it'd be better to encourage people to be at home where they're comfortable and they're happy and they have their surroundings and their things. But that's one of the struggles that we find. But the good news is if you have friends or family members who are willing to be a caregiver, some of these programs, they offer consumer-directed services. So you can name this person as your caregiver, get them approved with Medicaid, and they can actually be paid the $11 an hour to, put some gas in the car or something. But it's basically enough to have the person you want to come in to be able to, will show up. And that way they're still approved with Medicaid, you're still having the in-home care, but you're choosing who's in charge of your services, which I think is better anyway, because you can trust those people and maybe feel more comfortable. Again, same qualifications as nursing home care. One of the little known facts too, if you are interested in this program, you do have to add the Medicaid applicant to what's called an interest list. So you call in, you give the basic information, and you let them know you want to be on the interest list. They'll put it in the Rolodex. We have no idea when Medicaid's going to call. It could be weeks, could be months, we don't know. But they'll call and say, are you ready for Medicaid? You let them know yes or no. And then at that point, you can either apply for Medicaid or you can say, no, I'm not ready for Medicaid. Put me down at the bottom of the list. And then off you go for the next time. So some people like to preemptively put their loved one on this list just so they can have them in there. But again, current status of this program is unknown because there's a lot of changes happening right now with regulations, and I just feel like if you don't have a caregiver already in place, you're going to have a big problem trying to find caregivers to come in. I had a client say that out of the entire month, I think he got someone to show up 4 days total in a month. And he was trying to take care of his mom and was trying to work and he couldn't do it, so we had to go the nursing home route. So, something to consider. But anyway, I ended a little early so we have time for questions. But I just want to thank you all really quick. Thank you all for your time and attention. I know you're about to leave for lunch. You're probably starving and don't want to hear me rambling. But if you have any questions, please raise your hand and I can bring you the mic.
What happens when you go from a revocable trust to an irrevocable trust?
Yes, so a revocable trust to an irrevocable trust. Be very careful with irrevocable trusts. We have a lot of people that want to do those special Medicaid trusts where they'll put all their property in trust ahead of time. But remember that 5-year look back. If you've done that irrevocable trust within that 5 years, you're in trouble. They're going to consider all of that property as a transfer, and they're going to penalize the entire value of that. So you can do the irrevocable trust, but you need to do it way in advance, where there's no risk of that 5-year. And in fact, our firm does not do irrevocable trust because we don't believe in that. Because the risk is too strong that that person might have a catastrophic illness or diagnosis, and then we're in trouble. Yeah.
Even though if you have a trust, you can still be sued.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Having a trust, people like to have trusts for creditor protections, liability protections. Revocable living trust specifically, there are no creditor protections. There's no liability, there's no tax protections. A revocable living trust is very helpful because if you have property in different states and you don't want to have to probate in different states, super helpful, but it's considered an extension of you. It's basically, you don't have a separate tax return. It's just everything is on your own tax return. You can pull the property out, put it back in. It's a handy tool, but not for tax protection or creditor protection. There are irrevocable trusts out there that have those kinds of protections. We don't do them at our firm, but they are out there. But just be careful.
Autumn, we have someone. Sorry, I'm over here.
Yes, where are you at? Hello, okay.
Hi, regarding spin down, for the
Yes.
past 5 years, how does Medicaid see reimbursements? Like I pay property taxes, I pay medical expenses.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, that's very common, where the adult child will be taking care of mom, and maybe they, oh, I'll just pay you back at my next check, and you're sort of fronting all those bills for mom. Yes, so what you're gonna wanna do is take very good note-taking and records. So if you need to actually show the money came out of your account and went to mom, or you're gonna have to prove it to Medicaid, because they're not just gonna believe you that you are reimbursing yourself for a bill that you paid 2 months ago. So very good record keeping is gonna save you later on. Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
I think I may have misunderstood one of the slides, so I just wanted to clarify
Please.
this point. On the immediate annuity, you mentioned, and I'm talking about a single person at
Yes.
this point, that the income wasn't considered for Medicaid. Could you clarify that for me?
Yeah, so for a single person, it's a little different. So their entire income goes to pay the nursing home typically, but the problem is we're trying to preserve assets and not have to spend everything down to 0 or to 2,000 before they can apply. We can take half of their income and we gift it away because we're expecting that penalty. So that penalty will be calculated. Let's just say it's, 2-3 months. So we want to purchase the annuity with enough funds to be able to provide a stream of income to the person that's going into the nursing home, to be able to private pay the nursing home throughout that penalty period, and we time it to end right when their penalty period is over. So you might actually not have enough income to need a Miller Trust in the beginning, but then if we do that annuity for you, that might bring your income over that $2,900. So we may have to do sort of a tandem strategy where we do a Miller Trust, knowing it's going to be an income higher than that threshold, and we gift, and then we purchase the annuity with the other half. Yes, ma'am.
Got one over here.
I can speak. How is the income from the Miller Trust distributed and what can it go to?
Yes, so for the Miller Trust, all of the income that you're going to be receiving per month is going to essentially go into the Miller Trust. So it's just a trust account. So you essentially would have like Social Security, pension, RMD distributions. Everything's going to go from your checking account into the trust. And then you essentially just write a check for the expected copay. Medicaid's going to assess an expected copay, and everything else goes to pay the nursing home. So how it works is your income, and by the way, it's not partial Social Security or partial pension. You have to put the whole amount in the trust, and then the trust is used to pay the nursing home. So remember, you get to keep $75 of personal needs allowance. They also, I heard a giggle. They also let you keep unreimbursed medical expenses like Medicare, so they understand that that's going to be part of the money that you're going to hold back, because Medicaid considers your gross income when they're calculating your copay, but they consider what Medicare is going to be taking out as part of that. So your expected copay to the nursing home, that is what is paid from the Miller Trust to the nursing home directly, minus those deductions. So you have to make sure someone can handle moving the money and has the authority to move the money. That's where your power of attorney is going to come in real handy.
We have an online.
I have an online question.
Hi, yes.
Hi. From Maria Ortega, she asked, if you have a ladybird, do you still need a will?
Great question. So everyone asks me that, do I need a will? Y'all, everybody needs a will. Even if you never use it, please get one. There are unintended consequences of not having a will, especially with blended families. If you don't have a will, let's say there's one bank account where somebody forgot to put a beneficiary on there, you're married, you have kids from different relationships, y'all, it doesn't go to the spouse. Half of that goes to the spouse, half of it goes to the decedent's children. So please, please, please have a will, put your wishes in the will, but you can strategically use a ladybird deed, Maria, hi, You can use a ladybird deed to keep your house out of probate, and then you can structure your other property to also avoid probate. Beneficiary designations on all of your financial assets. You can even assign a beneficiary for your car. You can do that with a DMV. So you can make your entire estate completely non-probatable. But I still recommend to have a will as a backup because we've seen that go very wrong and unintended distributions can occur.
Perfect, thank you.
I have a question from a
Yes.
different perspective.
Uh-huh.
Let's say you've jumped through all these hoops.
Yep.
You've gotten your loved ones qualified for Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be that nursing homes would reserve 1 or 2 beds for their Medicaid patients. So that's my question. Just because you've qualified, does that mean you're going to get
Yes.
a good place for your loved one?
You are right. So yes, there are regular nursing homes all over San Antonio that are not fully Medicaid, where every bed in there is Medicaid. They'll have, their regular clients who pay private pay, and then they'll have like 10 or 20 beds, however large it is. They'll have special beds for Medicaid clients, and they reserve those. So on HHS, healthandhumanservices.com, they have a zip code searchable option where you can put in your desired zip code area to search for Medicaid approved, certified nursing homes, and then you would need to call them and see if they have Medicaid beds available, because maybe the one that's closest to your house, they may be full. So it requires a little bit of legwork, but you're right, you would need to check in advance that there is a Medicaid bed available. How it works is, remember how you have to be in the nursing home for 30 consecutive days? You'll want to make sure that you're in the Medicaid bed ahead of time. So you do your homework, make sure that it's a Medicaid bed available, get that person in there, private pay for 1 month, then you apply. At that point, you're on Medicaid pending status. The nursing home knows, do not take private pay level of care, just the Medicaid expected copay, and that's what they will accept until you're approved. So, but you do need to be in that Medicaid bed before you even apply. So, yes, ma'am, and you're right, sometimes there's just not available. You have to search a little farther out.
Yeah, I was going to say Medicaid dedicates how many beds each region
Yes.
gets. And so the nursing homes say, they kind of divvy them up. So some nursing homes take half of their beds as Medicaid, some only take a small portion.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Sorry, here's another question.
Okay.
I have a question. I've had friends who have had Medicaid and the state takes it away from them because they say their Social Security checks are too much. And it's like, that's kind of scary too to think of that can happen to you if you're in a nursing home and your Social Security check goes up too high and the state says no more.
You mean that their income goes over the threshold? Okay.
With Social Security. And that's all they have.
Okay. Well, Medicaid's going to expect your Social Security, or the majority of it, as part of your copay. But you're right, if you're in the nursing home and all of a sudden you have too much money coming in every month because over the years your Social Security has sort of increased, year over year, you might later need a Miller Trust to make sure that you can stay eligible. Because when you apply, even as a married couple, when you apply as a married couple, they look at everything. That next year, you're going to recertify as a single person. And then you have to recertify every year. So you're right to keep an eye on the income, because if you do go over that 2901 for 2025, you would need to possibly look into a Miller Trust, or you could lose benefits at that next recertification. And keep in mind too, anything in your checking or savings account, wherever you're holding that less than $2,000, please keep an eye on that. Sometimes people will have their $75 just held in there and kind of forget about it. And then it pushes them over that $2,000 maximum and they lose benefits because they forgot to spend down and keep it under that $2,000. So just a little forewarning. Yes, sir.
In counting income and assets, if a son or daughter's other parents' bank accounts is a joint owner, does that change things?
As long as there was no commingling of that money, so as long as son and daughter were putting their money in there and mixing it all up, because a lot of times our elders will say, I want my adult children on this account in case I have a catastrophic emergency, I have someone who can still pay my bills. If they're just on there as a joint owner, that's okay. They just should not be putting any of their own money in there or commingling it. And we would want that person removed when it's time, for Medicaid, just so that person can have a single account. But honestly, you could just keep them on there as long as they're not doing anything with the account, just to have an extra owner in case there's an emergency.
Anyone else? Okay. As I'm walking, I'll ask a quick question.
Yes, sir.
On the exempt IRA, is it subject to the MERP?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have your beneficiaries for your IRA, whoever you've named to receive those long time saved funds. Yeah, they'll get that, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Now, when you have a title of deed transfer, you need to file that with the courthouse too, right?
With deed records, yes, sir. So the Ladybird deed, you can actually record that after someone passes away. But with the transfer on death deed specifically, that is created by statute. They have very specific rules. You have to record that before the person has passed or it's void. Any other questions? All right, are y'all hungry? Is that what this is? Y'all gotta get out of here.
This is usually the hottest topic, so this shows you did such a great job.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, I'm here till 3 o'clock all day. Any questions, please? Free legal advice, kind of not really, but come over here and talk to me, and we can give you all the information that you need, okay? Thanks, y'all.
Perfect. All right, real quick, lunch is actually getting still set up, so I still have you captive for a few more minutes. Ha ha ha. Yeah, we could. I'm gonna have Laura Daniels come up real quick. She's gonna give us a quick talk about care advocates. Thank you, Laura.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll make it quick. I know we've got lunch.
I'm really bad at reading lips.
My name is Laura Daniels. I'm founder of Care Advocates, and what we do is we assist families and providers, doctors, nurses, social workers, with those clients that are maybe coming out of a hospital or of a rehab facility, or those clients that are at home whose care needs have increased. We assist them with care transitions. I started this work because I saw how overwhelming and confusing the elder care process can be. And I wanted to be a guide for both families and providers. I have been a registered nurse for over 32 years in geriatric care and specializing in transitional care planning. At Care Advocates, we walk alongside families and assist them with all care options and transitions. When it comes to aging, the need for assistance can be overwhelming. Over 70% of those who are 65 years old will need some type of assistance in their lifetime, whether that's toileting, bathing, transferring. Those who are 65 or older, most of them will need assistance at home or outside of the home. Finding the right care can be complex. There are many factors. Their emotional state, their care needs, financial resources, safety, and environment. Choosing care is about finding the right balance. If you are a family member, or if you're a hospital case manager, or a healthcare provider, and you know someone facing a change in health, or planning for future care needs, Care Advocates is here to help you find the right care at the right time. Whether it's assisted living, a memory care community, a residential care home, or aging in place, we can bring in resources, community-trusted resources, to help you age in place. That could be visiting doctors groups, that could be in-home care, podiatry, therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy, mental health. We can help you allocate those Medicare-covered resources to support your care at home. What we do at Care Advocates is when someone has a care need, we meet those families at bedside or in their home. We create a customized care plan based on budget, location, care needs, and unique situation. We discuss the options with you, we provide those options, and we go with you to tour these options. We provide ongoing support and solutions. The care journey should never feel overwhelming. It should feel guided, supported, and understood. Our commitment is simple: care, compassion, and lifetime support. We provide expert guidance at no cost. We work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we're here for you if you have any needs with care transitions or questions. We're here to help you. My number is on those red and white totes, and we have a table over there if you have any questions. Happy to help you. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. And Care Advocates. Okay, we're still getting lunch set up. I keep getting texts. So let's give away a couple of more of our door prizes. Yeah, okay. got a bunch more in here. Let's do, oh, see, we got people putting them in. Okay, let's do UT Health. We've got a cup, a mug from UT. Okay, I'm gonna mix them up. And first we go with, oh my gosh, E.L. Holmes? Is that, am I reading that right? Or is it Ed Holmes? It looks like L. Holmes. You're from Atkins, Texas? Yes? Am I coming close? What is that? Or is it just E. Holmes? E.L. Okay. Oh, lordy, lordy. Okay, yeah, see? Okay. Well, here we go. Here's a, okay? Okay.